Hello, everybody. This is Raymond here, or Ramon, and this is
Mikkel or Michael.
Mikkel or Michael. There
Yeah.
you go. And we're both teachers at CAX. We're English teachers at CAX. And today, what we're going to bring for you guys is a little bit about Mikkel's experience here in Brazil. Basically, I'm going to ask him questions about learning a culture and also learning a language, right? So this is what we're going to talk about today, right, Mikkel?
Yes, exactly.
All right, here we go, Mikkel. Let's go to the first question. Mikkel, you're here in Brazil, right? So the first thing we need to know is why Brazil? Why did you choose Brazil to live in?
All right. Yes. All right. That's of course a question I've been asked before, and I think it's a very valid question. When people they ask me, normally they also ask me, what did you know about Brazil before coming here? And a lot of people think it's like football and samba and women on the beaches, and that's not really it. We learned quite a lot, I think, about Brazil in school. Of course, football is a big thing, especially because you guys kick our asses all the time in football, or soccer, as they say in America. But I'm European, so I call it football. We have a quite. We know it's a strong economy. We know that Brazil has its problems. As any other country in the world. But basically what happened was I lived 3 months in Viana do Castelo in Portugal, where I was just living life with a friend of mine. And then there we met a lot of Brazilian people. And when we went back to Denmark to continue working, we decided to, let's go and get to know Brazil. And we had like 3 or 4 cities that we wanted to get to know: Sao Paulo, Rio, Salvador, and Brasilia, because those were, I guess, the 4 cities you kind of know, when you're from Europe. I know that you have Pipa, you have these cities up north where a lot of people they go to surf and stuff, but I've never really been a surfer, so I didn't know anything about those cities. Should I just tell you when I came to Brazil and why I chose Belo Horizonte?
So let me get, because you mentioned like four places, right?
Yes,
4 cities.
Mm-hmm.
So which one? BH was not the first, right?
No. BH was not even on the list. I didn't know what that was. I had
no idea. Of course.
We came to Sao Paulo because at the time you could fly. Maybe you could fly to Brasilia, but we had from Europe. We could either fly to Sao Paulo or to Rio, and the cheapest flight was to Sao Paulo, so that was the one we took.
There we go, man. There we go. Very, very nice, Mikkel. Now, Mikkel, culturally speaking, what were like the first challenges you had? Challenges and also interesting things that came to your attention. Yeah,
that's actually the same answer to both questions. The difficulty and the interesting thing was the language. Back then it was quite difficult to find people. Not impossible, of course. We landed in Sao Paulo, but it was difficult. I wanted to get a haircut, and we had to do that. And there was no cell phones back then. There were cell phones, but not with Google Translate and stuff. So it was all English and then gestures. So I found that challenging, but I also found it super cool because Brazilian people, they at the time didn't speak that much English, but that didn't stop them. They would call their cousin, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whoever was nearby to help in the translation, in the communication. And I found that just so cool. Instead of saying, no, we don't speak, they did whatever they could with gestures, with little drawings. And I found that to be a little bit challenging, but also super interesting.
There you go. So people actually, they made an effort to
huge effort.
Honestly, man, this is what something that I've noticed about Brazilian and tourists. I at least, I don't know, here in BH, in Belo Horizonte, where we are, right? people are curious about, understanding, because we're not a very touristic place. I think we will make that effort just to learn a little bit about from this person coming from abroad. I think you might have encountered, felt that, right?
For sure.
There
Especially in Belo Horizonte. That's one of the reasons I ended up choosing Belo Horizonte.
Nice.
Like this curiosity, but not in a negative way, as it can be in both Rio and Salvador, which are very touristy. And later I found out that even from you guys from Minas, right? When you go to Rio, you might end up paying more than you're supposed to because you're from the countryside, right?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, yes. Cannot lie. It has happened to me.
Yeah, me too.
Well, there you go. All right, Mikkel. So look, another thing I'm curious, and then we're curious here, is so you learned English in Denmark, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that process? Because the idea we have from outside is that you guys, your education system is excellent, and it's kind of easy for you to learn a language just like that because the classes are amazing. We might have that impression. Some of us have, right? So, but we would like to hear from yourself. Yeah.
Sure. So actually, I started in the 5th grade. I think I was like 12 or something at the time. And I remember it being interesting. And something I've talked to some people about both in Germany and in Brazil is that I think some of that curiosity is taken away both in Germany and in Brazil because of all the dubbed movies and films. I totally understand that you need to dub it for children or for people who can't read subtitles. But I think one of the biggest difference between Germany and Denmark in terms of English is that they still use a lot of dubbed movies in Germany. And I think all the curiosity you get, all the, oops, I understood that word, kind of disappears when you watch movies dubbed. So it's also one of my first suggestions to young people who want to learn English. Not that you learn English watching TV, but you acquire a certain curiosity when you hear this language. But anyway, yeah, so I started in the 5th grade. We don't have any language schools in Denmark, like as we have here at CAX, for example. We learn everything from school. I would say that the Danish people, like in general, has like an intermediate, upper intermediate level in English, and then those who goes on to work with English or who travels a lot, they end up building a bigger vocabulary and end up talking more. But it's we learn it in school. And for tourists going to Denmark, it would be a difficult challenge to find someone in Denmark who doesn't know how to give at least directions or say go there, don't go there. So I think that's as we talked about Ramon earlier, the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, they are all known for a quite high level of English.
Yeah. That's the. From interviews, I see the level of English from these people, Nordic people. It's always good.
Yeah.
It's always impressive. Yeah. That's funny, man. Because so you see, you've been living in Brazil, so you've probably heard that here in Brazil, when we go to school and have English lessons, all we get from the beginning to end, so you know how it goes. So it would be nice to have a better, it would be nice if our English lessons would be just a little bit better than that, right?
Well, Ramon, I actually have a question for you. Because we're talking about levels, and of course I've had a lot of different private students. I have both from let's call them like a wealthy families, then also from people who came from public schools. And I hear a lot of people that speak English very well, which is very different from when I came to Brazil in 2004, 3 and 4. So how is it that you reached this fantastic level of English that you have? Because we talked about it very briefly, and you have never been abroad to learn English. So, you know, you are a perfect case of learning English in Brazil, right? So what's that story?
All right, Mikkel. All right. Thanks for the fantastic.
Well, it is.
Okay, here, look, man, it's interesting. What happened with me was the following. I first became interested in English through, you know, video games and songs. Basically, that was it, right? But I mean, it wasn't until, you know, what we call here sexta série, or the 6th grade, right? I'm loosely translating these terms. When I was 12 or 13, like you said, that was when I first had my English classes, in school. That's when they introduced it in the school I studied, right? So first class, I got hooked. You know, I was immediately, I was amazed by it. Oh my God, I really want to learn this, right? And then I think for me, and I'll have to say, the classes were not that great, but they were great enough that in the sense that they sparkled the interest in me, you know? So it's kind of like that, man. I got so enthusiastic about it that I was like always like 3, 4, 5, 6 lessons ahead of the group. And all of the kids around me, they you know, when you know, test time came, you know, they would ask me for help. That's exactly. They conversed around me. You see what I mean? But again, Mikkel, so I think, just to make a long story short, right? I think because a lot of people ask me that question, Ramon, your English level is very good. So how did you learn? Did you live abroad? The fact is, I lived in the US for a year, about a year, but that was later into the process, much later into the process. When I traveled to the US and worked there, I had already been teaching for years. So I can say and safely say that most of my English was learned just through the interest in study. You know?
Yes, it's cool.
So yeah, because you see, I really liked it, and then the study came along, you know, with it. So I think that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, and it also kind of proved my points about the whole dubbed thing, because your interest was sparked via games they were not in Portuguese, they were in English, where I'm guessing you had to choose how to answer something, right, in English.
True.
And of course, music. If you had listened to samba or forró, which is great as well, but it wouldn't really have sparked like that interest in you. So I think the whole, I mean, it's nice, you know, listening to Brazilian music, or in the other example, German movies or German songs, like music. But I just think it's important that if you want to watch a German movie, watch a movie made in Germany, not an American movie or an English movie, which is dubbed, because it takes the interest, that little spark that you felt, you know, people, they don't really get. So I think, I think it's super cool that you are one of the. I think a lot of examples are like you. A lot of Brazilian people, they get to a very, very nice level of English, but it's kind of, you hear students say, "Oh, do I have to live out abroad in order to get that kind of English?" And obviously, you don't have to. So
I try to encourage everybody out there that well, of course, man, going abroad and having the experience there is great, but I keep saying this. It's not essential or just a fundamental even, you know? You can get to a very high level of English. I know people who actually have never been abroad, and they're English level is just amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is you have to be willing to study it, right?
Yes.
To be interested in study it for sure.
Cool.
Mikkel, so I think, so we're talking about differences in culture and you living in Brazil. I would like to hear you speak something in Portuguese. How do you feel about that?
Trem bom. I am good with that. But I do need to give a spoiler. When people hear that I've been here for like 18 years, they might expect me to have like perfect Portuguese. But ever since I started teaching English, my Portuguese has kind of dropped a little. My wife, she's living abroad, not abroad, she's living in another city. So, there are sometimes weeks go by without me speaking Portuguese. But sure, let's give it a go. Okay?
I know. Yeah, man, definitely. Okay, so let's switch languages right now.
Let's.
Mikkel, eu gostaria que você falasse um pouquinho agora para todos nós aqui sobre ser professor no CACS. Qual é a sua experiência de ser um professor no CACS?
Então, eu comecei a dar aula de inglês em 2011. E isso não foi no CACS, isso foi no dia que eu resolvi, vamos que vamos. E aí eu fui na Lucina Lana, Red Balloon, Green System, umas escolas por aí. E assim, não vou falar mal, porque era uma experiência muito boa para mim de passar por isso. Mas eu, assim, olhando como professor, ser professor no CACS é uma coisa completamente diferente. Nas outras escolas eu tive que sempre contar meus horários e depois, opa, faltou uma ali, faltou dois ali. E no CACS nunca senti isso, contrário, se tem faltado alguma coisa, o CACS é que vem atrás de mim. Então, como um lugar de trabalho, é fantástico. E isso sem falar das colegas. Vocês, por exemplo, a Bruna, que estuda francês, a Magda, a Kellen e todos o resto, eu acho que é muito legal e eu falo para meus alunos que essas aulas online, para mim, são fantásticos. Assim, eu realmente achei, assim, eu acho muito, muito bom, mas o que falta para mim lembro os sábados, que a gente às vezes almoçava juntos, a gente encontrava, e isso realmente a pandemia meio que roubou da gente, né, que a gente não tem esses encontros mais. Mas assim,
é verdade.
Depois que eu comecei no CAC, eu cotei duas outras escolas, e uma outra coisa que você dá aula no CAC e nos outros lugares, dá aula para os alunos do CACS, não é uma propaganda de os alunos do CACS são os melhores, mas dar aula para quem quiser estudar é completamente diferente que dar aula para aquele adolescente que o mãe mandou estudar, mas ele está achando um saco, né? Então, assim, sem parecer muito, é o corno, né? Corno que fala, quando é muito corno não, tipo lame,
sim, olha só que legal, você fez uma mistura de duas línguas. Acho que você quis falar corny.
Mas como falar em português isso?
Poxa, ai meu Deus, agora fica com corny na cabeça. Peraí, rapidinho. Para não soar...
A gente faz isso depois. Para não parecer, tipo, que eu tô puxando o saco
tá
dos
certo,
alunos.
Isso,
mas, tipo, é questão de dar aula para quem quiser ter aula. Todo professor pode falar que isso é a melhor coisa. E eu quase nunca vejo... Eu vejo alunos do CACS que, talvez, nossa, present perfect é um saco. E realmente, vamos combinar, né? Mas, assim, nunca vi, assim, ou eles escondem bem, ou eu não vi aluno que chega na aula assim, que saco. Isso para mim como professor é o fantástico.
Faz muita diferença. Não, Mikkel, assim, para dar minha opinião também, é isso que eu vejo no CACS, é que o aluno que está ali está sempre interessado. E aí, cara, é como se diz, um puxa o outro. Os alunos estando interessados, eles começam a interagir, e aí eles interagem também muito bem com o professor, e aí fica tudo, um ambiente fica ótimo para estudar, né? O professor tem gosto de preparar uma aula boa, sim, e dar aquela aula bem, e os alunos têm gosto de estudar, e aí é só felicidade.
Né? Pois é. Eu acho que é isso. Não sei se tem mais perguntas ou...
Acho que tá ótimo. A gente pode parar por aqui. Quem sabe no futuro a gente faz mais uma entrevista aí, né, Mikkel?
Com certeza.
So, people, this was the interview. I hope you all liked it. And see you around. See you in class, right, Mikkel?
Hopefully, yes.
Because I know there we go.
Yes. And Ramon, thank you very much. We'll talk more later. And who knows,
Definitely.
we might find out the word I was trying to say, but I couldn't really.
Oh, yes, man.
All right?
I blanked out a little bit.
No problem.
Yeah.
It happens for all of us. Take care.
There we go. Take care, man.